Hello, it's Brian, and it's time for an update again. Today is Friday, September 15th, and quite a bit has happened over the last several weeks. The most important thing happened yesterday, which was my check-in appointment with Dr. Saltz, who is the transplant doctor at OHSU. Um, and we finalized what my day zero is going to be for transplant. We're back on the transplant plan. Um, and past now all of our side effects and everything from the bad lumbar puncture with the blood bubble in my spinal cord and all of that good stuff. Unfortunately, it's not quite as quick as we were hoping because we're going to have to do another round of infused chemo. I'm waiting for word on whether that's going to start today or whether we're going to have to wait till Monday to start. They're working on that on the Providence side. Um, it needs to be 7 consecutive days of infusions. And so if she can get me scheduled for today, tomorrow, and Sunday, then we'll get it started today. Otherwise, we'll have to wait till Monday and have it run Monday to Sunday rather than Friday to Thursday. Um, but that pushes things back a little bit, as well as some scheduling conflicts both at OHSU and with my donor. Um, and so my day zero for transplant, the day that will actually be the transplant day, will be November 6th. So we are 50 some odd days away from that, about a month and a half. Um, and so that's going to be the big day. Um, I will go through this infusion chemo. This is not a terrible one. There are side effects, but it's definitely one of the easier runs of infusion chemo. Um, the side effects are mostly digestive and intestinal and some increased pain and things, but it's pretty easy to deal with and will be outpatient unless something really unusual happens. That will start again either today or on Monday based on how the scheduling all works out. Um, and then a couple weeks of recovery from that. Uh, do bone marrow biopsy about 2 weeks before the day zero. And then I'll go into the hospital somewhere between 4 and 7 days before the actual transplant. Um, so I'll be going into the hospital at OHSU on Halloween or a few days after for conditioning chemo to just kind of clean out my system and get it ready for the transplant, which again will be November 6th. That's a Monday. Um, so things are looking up on the bright side, and um, I wish it was a little bit sooner than that. That means that I'll be in the hospital for sure Thanksgiving, um, my birthday, and things like that will all be in the hospital um, because I'll be in the hospital somewhere 4 to 6 weeks most likely, but it can be even longer than that um, following the actual transplant day zero. It just depends on how my body reacts and how much host versus graft disease there is. Host versus graft disease is the equivalent with a hard organ transplant of an organ being rejected, but in the case of a bone marrow transplant, um, this is actually the bone marrow rejecting me. And so that's why it's called graft versus host disease. It's the same general idea. Um, and basically, everybody gets some degree of this disease, but they do everything they can to keep it to a minimal. Um, that is the biggest risk factor going into the actual transplant phase. Um, but we're going to keep thinking positive and hope that my side effects from that are on the minimal side of things, and that hopefully I'm out of the hospital by the early part of December and be able to be home with the family for Christmas. So, so that's the big news. Over the last few weeks, I'm getting stronger. I'm up to doing some good walks. I do neighborhood walks with Michelle or by myself, mostly in the evenings when it's a little bit cooler. And then Todd and I have been doing some longer walks where he goes golfing on a par 3 course or disc golfing, and I walk along with him. So those walks have been a mile and a half, things like that. So that's a lot stronger than I had been a few weeks ago. Still having to stay on the pain medications. I've tried to wean myself off of those, and it's just not time for that yet. When I try to wean back on those, the pain definitely breaks through. So that's okay. They want me to. That's the trade-off to being more active, and it's important that I'm as active as possible and getting stronger. And if that requires some pain medication to make that happen, then that's a trade-off that the doctors are very okay with. So that's been really good. Those walks with Todd on the golf courses, whether it be disc golf or regular golf, have been up towards a mile and a half, and the walks that I take through the neighborhood are typically around a half to 7/10 of a mile. And so that's really good. I'm relying on the walker less. I still take it, mostly as a portable seat at this point, rather than needing it to be used actually like a walker. Still having some side effects with digestion and appetite and nausea and things like that. Those just don't go away, but they're pretty well managed. The pain is pretty well managed, and gaining a little bit of weight, which the doctors are very happy to see. I had dipped down below 200 pounds, which is pretty light for me, and my arms and legs were getting pretty wasted away, but we're up. I weighed myself at 209 this morning, so that's starting to regain, and trying to eat more frequently smaller meals to try to get that side of things taken care of. But overall, just wanted to pass on the good news that we're back on track for the transplant after this little side trip through spinal issues. It seems like every left turn I find a way to take it, but we're back on the straight and narrow path towards transplant, and I look forward to being able to tell you more about that as it gets a little bit closer. So thanks for all of the well wishes and prayers and thoughts, and I really appreciate all that. It makes a big difference when I know people are in my corner, and so I really appreciate you all for that. And I will update you again as we get a little closer to the transplant date. Take care.